then I will also invite the Icelandic Minister of Science and Education and the Japanese ambassador to join us. So you can have the opportunity to put questions to representatives of these 4 countries, Iceland, Japan, Russia, and France. And let me begin by sharing with you all what I find is a fascinating aspect of the Arctic Science Ministerial, that although the Arctic Council is formally defined as members of the 8 Arctic states and the others are observers, the Arctic Science Ministerial, although organized by the Arctic Council chair, is open to ministers from a multitude of countries, as we saw in the practice both in Tokyo and in Berlin and in the United States. So that is a very important signal that Arctic science is international in its essence, to have so many ministers of science at the table. So let us have the lights up in the hall so I can see people raising their hands. And I hope there are some people around carrying the microphone. And we have a question here at the end of that row. Please introduce yourself and put the question.
Yes, I'm John Farrell from the U.S. Arctic Research Commission. And I have a question for the Russian Federation. I understand that you will be co-hosting ASM4, but I also understand that the Russian Ministry of Science and Higher Education has proposed a second meeting, a different meeting of science ministers from just the 8 Arctic states. How do you see these 2 meetings working with each other, or how do you see them interacting? What is the goal of the Russian Federation in that regard? Thank you.
Good question.
Thank you for a good question. We want to carry both loads. And you can find the answer in the program of Russian chairmanship of the Arctic Council. So one thing we want to do is to hold a meeting of ministers or high-level officials of 8 Arctic states and discuss how to raise efficiency of cooperation, scientific cooperation within the Arctic Council. This is one thing. The other thing is that we support and welcome the good tradition raised by Arctic Circle and President Grímsson of holding this ISM meeting of ministers of science of every country interested in what's going on in the Arctic. And this is a different thing. Here we shall build on what was being done by our distinguished predecessors. And we here would like to congratulate once again the fantastic chairmanship of Iceland and Japan, arranging that despite really so big difficulties. And I must say that even before this session, when we announced that yes, we shall go together with France and arrange ISM4, we've been in very close contact with Minister Lilja Alfreðsdóttir and her colleagues, and we've been thinking over this process, how to move on. But I think that first of all, both processes should not hamper each other. They should go in parallel. Moreover, we are open-minded on many aspects of that, and depending on where we would come and where we will be in our understanding of both, we could find some synergies between both, and we are open to all sorts of proposals, and that will be, again, not the process of us, but the progress of you, and all of you sitting here, because it's the most democratic scientific meeting you can imagine. We would simply be the coordinators, and Russia and France, and again, we don't see any big problems in this, but we see 2 different formats of working and moving together.
Okay, can I ask the Minister to comment on that?
Yes, I think this approach that they are working together, both the Arctic Circle and the ASM meetings, I think that really kind of is both supported to both items and both events, so I fully support that.
Okay. The floor is open for anyone who... You want to have a follow-up on this?
The one part I wonder about, Ambassador, is to say that the meeting of the Arctic 8 is an Arctic Council under the auspices of the Arctic Council. I'm not sure that's how I understood it to be. I understood it to be initially under the auspices of the International Agreement on Scientific Cooperation. So can you clarify that? Do you consider this an Arctic Council activity?
Yes, you are right. And one of our leading thoughts in working on raising the effectivity of scientific cooperation within the Arctic Council is to build on what we have reached in this agreement on enhancement of scientific cooperation among the Arctic states. And yes, this will be one of the most important part of what we shall be doing. And we already have a certain experience. We've made, I think, step 1, step 2, and we are somewhere between step 3, step 4, and so I think it's, again, when we signed this agreement, if you remember, we underscored that this is an open document, and it could be, it's simply, its purpose is to enhance cooperation, to create conditions for enhancing cooperation, with the main idea of raising accessibility of data, of territories, of materials, of laboratories, of chances to contact between the people. So this is it. And we already had, some time has passed, so we can build on what we have now and move forward. So I think this is it. What we have now within the Arctic Council is quite enough for just sitting, looking around, and search for the next steps.
Okay, the floor is open. Yes, there's a question there. Yes.
Thank you. Wait. Thank you. My name is Alfreðsdóttir. I take the opportunity for the French ambassador to be here. I'm a French master's student, and I would like to know what's going to be the next step for French science diplomacy in the Arctic. Thank you.
You're asking me a difficult question. I may be the French ambassador to Reykjavik, but I'm not yet up to date in every field of scientific endeavors in France. So what I can say is that we have been working for many years in most fields of research that have to do with Arctic exploration. Traditionally, Arctic exploration and research for us has been an individual endeavor. And it has been, explorers and wild enthusiasts who have gone off into the north, or indeed the Arctic or the Antarctic. And these individual efforts have been accompanied later on by the state. But France indeed has a very long tradition of scientific and simply adventure exploration, a very long tradition of maritime expedition and exploration, and the state has been doing its best to accompany these individual adventures, I think in a beautiful way. The other important thing I can say is that we intend to organize in early 2023, or even earlier, in June 2022, an Arctic Forum, that is a smaller version of the Arctic Circle in Paris. And either we can do that in the spring of 2022, that would be one objective, but we have presidential elections happening in April, so one possibility would be after that. in June 2022, and perhaps the most reasonable possibility would be to do that in early 2023, at the moment when we have the Paris gathering for the Arctic Science Ministerial. So I'm very happy and proud to announce we will have an Arctic Circle forum in France very soon.
Well, thank you very much, and we are quite honored to accept the invitation from France to hold that Arctic Circle Forum in Paris and relate it in one way or another to the Arctic Science Ministerial meeting. Let me also say I found it quite interesting and inspirational, and in the spirit of what the ambassador said, the long-standing tradition of France on the Arctic and the polar region, that President Sarkozy appointed Monsieur Rocard, the former Prime Minister of France, as the President's representative to the Arctic and to Antarctica. This was a number of years before the Arctic Circle was even established. We were very honored to have Monsieur Rocard here on the stage at the first assembly. And I think he was the only presidential representative, apart from Artur Selikanov, who represented President Putin at that assembly. And then President Hollande reappointed Monsieur Rocard. And then Madame Royal, after Rocard tragically died, was appointed special representative. And of course, we were honored to listen to the new ambassador representative to the polar region here on this stage. So I think France has the distinction of being the only country to have presidential representatives at every Arctic Circle assembly, if I may say so. So with that, I think we should conclude this, but I believe that the representatives of Iceland and Japan are going formally to hand over here in the front of the stage to the two of you a symbolic report to make clear to the international audience that you are now responsible for the success of the fourth Arctic Science Ministerial meeting. So maybe you go in front of the, yeah, I'm not going to be on that picture because I'm just an assistant here, yes.
This side.
Okay.
Okay. So sorry. Okay.
So I trust you with this. Yeah.